The ancient Greeks never spoke his name out loud. To whisper the word Hades in the candlelit streets of Athens or the war-torn valleys of Sparta was not just a violation of cultural taboo. It was believed to be an immediate, irreversible invitation to death itself. It was a fatal error that would instantly draw his cold, unyielding, and terrifying gaze from the deepest, pitch-black underground structures directly to your mortal soul. Whenever men and women desperately needed to send prayers to the quiet ruler of the underworld, they were forced to perform a terrifying, dramatic ritual. They turned their faces completely away from his dark, faceless stone altars, flatly refusing to look into the growing shadows, and aggressively struck the heavy physical earth with their bare hands, trying to force their panicked whispers to travel through the thick layers of stone and soil. They desperately avoided his true cosmic identity, replacing it with carefully designed coded titles like the other Zeus, the Renowned, or the Receiver of All, just to disguise their absolute existential panic. For centuries, modern humanity has been systematically taught that this forbidden king was a cruel, bloodthirsty monster ruling over a realm of eternal torture and endless suffering. But what if the forgotten, secret archives of history reveal a completely different figure? What if the king of the underworld was never the Hollywood villain pop culture forced you to believe in, but the most misunderstood, calculated deity of Mount Olympus, hiding an invisible structural power that could alter human destiny without anyone ever noticing? The true narrative of the dark underworld has been deliberately buried beneath thick layers of artificial myth and engineered fear. Today, the heavy iron gates are finally beginning to unlock. Unlike the chaotic, emotional, and vengeful gods who constantly feasted on Mount Olympus, triggering catastrophic wars, spreading plagues, and manipulating mortal humans for their own petty entertainment, Hades lived in absolute, solemn, and quiet isolation. He was never an analog to the modern religious concept of the devil or Satan, nor did he ever take sadistic pleasure in human suffering or design painful tortures for the weary souls of the dead. The ancient original texts describe him in a completely different light, a strict, cold, but fundamentally just judge, the ultimate incorruptible keeper of universal balance. His grand cosmic duty was not to punish humanity, but to guarantee that the absolute laws of existence remained entirely unbreakable. In his quiet realm, superficial worldly power, royal bloodlines, and massive armies meant absolutely nothing. Powerful emperors and nameless slaves stood side by side, completely stripped of their titles, weapons, and vanity, facing the exact same eternal truth. Hades never actively hunted for living souls, nor did he cause premature deaths or engineering tragedies on Earth. He simply waited at the very end of every human path with absolute mathematical inevitability. He was a flawless keeper of cosmic order who never broke his own laws, but his final justice carried a terrifying price: absolute finality. Once the heavy monolithic iron gates of his silent kingdom closed behind you, no desperate prayers, no golden bribes, and no mortal armies could ever open them again. He did not torture people. He simply never let anyone leave. While the visible world blindly looked up to the heavens for power and glory, the real, tangible control of the earth was being quietly accumulated deep below. Hades held a secret, highly protected title that made the proud gods of Olympus incredibly envious. He was legally worshipped by ancient secret cults as Plouton, which translates directly from ancient Greek as the Wealthy One. This did not refer to a wealth of dead souls, but to absolute, undisputed ownership of the planet's physical riches and mineral resources. Every single vein of raw gold, every hidden deposit of silver, and every precious diamond forming under intense tectonic pressure inside the continental crust belonged entirely to his dark domain. Every deep mine carved into the mountains by human hands was a quiet, dangerous trespass into his personal treasury. While earthly kings fought bloody, exhausting, and pointless wars over a tiny fraction of land, Hades silently collected the true tribute as entire empires collapsed and their hoarded gold naturally sank back into the dirt. This immense mineral power made him, without question, the wealthiest deity in all of existence, a supreme ruler who didn't need to demand taxes, built grand cathedrals, or ask for human sacrifices, because the earth itself automatically deposited all its physical wealth into his deep vaults. He possessed the raw material power to collapse human economies at any second, yet he chose to remain completely in the shadows, proving to history that true wealth doesn't need to shine in the sun. It rules perfectly well from the dark. The Underworld was never an empire of chaotic fire, brimstone, and burning lava. Those are modern concepts, completely rewritten by centuries of theological fear and manipulation. The true realm of Hades was defined by one terrifyingly beautiful, haunting characteristic: absolute, unbroken, and eternal silence. It was a place of permanent, soft twilight and profound rest, specifically designed for human souls to submerge into eternity without the chaotic noise and stress of the living world. To enter this quiet world, a soul had to cross the mystical, dark, and heavy waters of the River Styx, the terrifying boundary of sacred cosmic oaths that even the highest Olympian gods dared not break. Deep within this quiet cosmos ran the River Lethe, the waters of complete forgetfulness. A single, cold sip from its current would instantly wash away a soul's mortal memories, completely erasing all earthly pain, broken ambitions, betrayed loves, and human failures, leaving absolutely nothing but a blank slate of pure, peaceful existence. Beyond these dark rivers lay the wide Asphodel meadows, endless misty fields filled with gray, ghostly flowers, where ordinary souls walked in a permanent state of calm, rhythmic quietude. It was neither a terrible place of punishment nor an ecstatic place of reward. It was a sanctuary of complete neutrality, a giant silent vacuum where the loud, chaotic noise of human history was completely neutralized under the watchful, calm, and protective eyes of the silent king. Hades was never a god of tragic, violent death, but a god of the inevitable. He remains a profound, historical reminder that everything taken from the physical earth eventually, without a single exception, returns right back to it. Perhaps that is the ultimate secret of his historical legacy. He didn't just own the gold, the silver, and the deep, heavily guarded vaults of the planet. He owned time itself. In a modern world completely obsessed with superficial noise, constant social media visibility, and the aggressive pursuit of temporary power, The quiet strategy of the underworld offers a striking, heavy lesson. True authority doesn't need to scream on a screen, build monuments, or seek public validation from the masses. It operates silently, structures its multi-generational plans from the deep shadows, and relies entirely on absolute inevitability. The ancient, primitive fear of his name has evolved over the centuries, but the structural principles of his invisible rule still perfectly mirror the hidden forces steering modern human society today. If you want to descend even deeper into the forgotten archives of history, uncover the dark truths behind ancient myths, you know exactly what to do. Join the fading shadows if you seek the absolute truth behind the legends. The dark secrets are waiting. The historical ink is dry.